Welcome to another episode of the No Ceilings Podcast. I'm Tyler Metcalf, joined, as always, by Tyler Rucker. Rucker, how are we holding up?
Fantastic. We got Combine Week. Everyone is just buzzing. There's basketball in the air. We got NBA playoffs. It's a fantastic time to be alive. How are you doing, Metcalf?
Hanging in there. Timberwolves just running away with the second round series, as everyone predicted.
Jokic is pretty good.
Can we stop considering a 7-game series over after 2 games?
We need to, and then it's just
we do this literally every single year and every single round. Maybe the best player in the world will figure some things out. Maybe. I don't know. Just a thought.
I also need everyone to calm down about the Rudy Gobert slander about guarding Jokic. It's just everyone struggles with Jokic. There's a damn reason why he's 3-time MVP.
Did you see some of those shots he was making?
You can't stop it.
Who in the world is defending that?
Who was it? It was Richard Jefferson and JJ on their pod. And I'd love, but Jefferson's line up all the defensive player of the year candidates. Jokic is going to do that against all of them. I was like, That's damn right. That's what unbelievable players do. Yes.
And I think JJ threw out the number 2, before that game. Jokic was 11 of 28 shooting against just Gobert. So it's oh, okay. So cool. We're just reacting to one game. Whatever. It's fine. I'm fine. We're fine.
We're fine. We're having
fun. Fine. Everything's fine. We're having a great time here. More importantly, it was Combine Week. Exciting time. We start to get some official measurements. Some a little more disappointing than others. And we got scrimmages. We got guys playing. I thought the scrimmages were really fun. We'll dive into the winners, losers, general reactions, all of that kind of stuff. Where do you want to start with this? You want to start big picture, kind of how you approach the combine, what you take from it, if it means anything, or do you just want to dive right into specific players?
No, we can talk big picture. It's tough because it's so damn exciting for evaluators, for fans of the draft to get just pumped out of your mind about the combine. I'm right there with you guys. I'm guilty, but I also water down a lot of my evaluations. I will say, Metcalf, it is one thing that it will get me back in the film room. If a guy pops during the scrimmages, especially, it will get me back to say, hey, there's something there. Maybe I didn't, maybe I missed it. Because, hey, guess what? We watch a lot of guys. We always miss something. We have to go back. That's the beauty of this time of the year. And I think there was a couple of names that really popped to me that I was like, I need to go turn on some tape. And I know we're going to talk about them, so I'm excited. But what about you? I mean, it's so easy to we all go crazy for the measurements when they start leaking in. Shout out NBA for taking down the website after we posted them. But I go crazy. Everyone goes crazy. Everyone's texting about going crazy. It's always interesting. It just more I like to see, is there any surprises? Obviously, Dillingham and Reed Shepherd, everyone was waiting to see what they measured in. Zach Edey measured the biggest person to ever exist. So it was fun. It's exciting, but it also never really I'm never getting measurements and moving someone down my board because of measurements. I'm just trying to say okay, wingspan checked out from what I thought on tape, or, it's a little shorter than I thought. So, I mean, where do you go in with this whole week? What's your process?
I just kind of take it for what it is. I don't get too hung up on the measurements. I do kind of use it as a validation, kind of as how does it align with the tape? What does it matter? If I think a guy's an awesome defender and really disruptive with steals and blocks and all that kind of stuff, but his wingspan is a couple inches shorter than would be ideal, do I really care? Not really. But if a guy who maybe his defensive metrics aren't quite outstanding, or the outlier status, but then you see the wingspans +8 or +7 or something ridiculous, that's oh, okay, maybe let's go back in, see let's re-examine the defense. Same thing with the height. I like it to kind of confirm, mostly with guards, of man, we're all viewing this guy as a small guard. Is he actually the 6'4" that his school listed him at? Probably not. But when they are, that's a pleasant surprise. Like Brandon Podziemski last year, where we're man, I don't think he's going to be 6'4" or 6'5" or whatever the official measurement was. And then he was. And I was like, okay, now that rebounding stuff, now that physicality, the scoring versatility, the strength stuff, it all becomes a little more legitimate. And then you get guys who are listed at 6'4" and measure in at 6'1". And it kind of changes things where it's like, oh man, you're really going to get targeted. It's going to be really hard for you to hold up. So let's go back and look at, where did you struggle? Where did you succeed? But I never view it as, oh my God, this guy had a +3 wingspan instead of a +4 off the board. I never adjust my rankings or anything based on measurements, even with the athletic stuff too, because it's all of these guys are training for these specific events. So it's like, yeah, you've been the last 2, 3, 4 months. That's all you've kind of been focusing on, is adding that extra inch to your vert, improving your foot speed, laterally, all that kind of stuff. But did it ever show up in the game? Is it actually functional? Is it real? Or are you just doing it in this very controlled setting? And if it's just in that controlled setting and we never see it pop on tape, that's like, I don't really care.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think if anything for me, it's confirming what I've seen on tape. Like guys like Dalton Connect
Yeah.
had a fantastic, if you want to talk about like the testing and everything, like his vertical leap was up there, and it's like, yeah, I've seen that on tape. Reed Shepherd was shocking people with his 42-inch vert, but it's like you can see that on tape sometime. Like it pops when he's on defense going for rejections and closing out for shooters. Like you can see that he can get up. So I think it's one of those things where if the numbers don't back up what I'm seeing on tape, I'm making note of that. But like, Adem Bona had a fantastic combine when it came to testing, and I thought he was fantastic on the courts, but you see that on tape because he's explosive as hell. He can get cover ground in a hurry. So I think it's definitely one of those things. I'm right with you. It's confirming what I've seen. And if the numbers don't match, I'm kind of like, interesting. Where because it could be a question of you being targeted.
Yeah, and I think same thing especially goes for the shooting drills, where it's like it's an empty gym. NBA players will make 95% of those shots,
right?
Typically. So you just take it for what it is, and it's just another tiny little piece of data. But let's start diving into some specific players, guys who stood out during scrimmages, biggest winners, whatever. I'll let you start. What direction do you want to go in?
If I'm going off of scrimmages, I think KJ Simpson was probably one of the biggest winners. And it's tough because everyone's going to like kind of fascinate. He continues to give me headaches because I don't know how much I want to keep moving him up, because I've loved watching him years ago at Colorado. I was like, this kid could just play. I wish he was bigger. And then this year he just had an unbelievable season, productive across the board, but undersized. So like I keep joking the last couple of years for No Ceilings on the pods, I'm like, I need the year in which the undersized point guard brings it back and says to everyone, look, it can work. We don't have to be 6'5". Maybe KJ is one of those pieces, but his range is going to be fascinating to me because in those scrimmages, he just looked like he was playing at a different speed. He's physical. He's going at guys off the bounce. He was finishing with contact. Like I just thought it was a really impressive couple of days for him.
I agree. I think he was pretty easily the best player in the scrimmages that he was in. And something that you said, the game just looked easy. It looked really slow for him out there, and just his decision making, his offensive versatility, it was really, really impressive. And from these small guards, especially the offensively focused ones, that's what you want to see, because it's okay. Did your college success come because you were kind of the guy and you ran the show and you're familiar with everything and you're a little older than most of your opponents? Or is it because it's real and you took a big jump and you took the game slowed down for you and you're seeing things differently? And that's what it looked like for him out there, where the combines are typically tailored for these guards to succeed, because they always have the ball. They're able to get to their shots a little more consistently and easily than the bigs and the wings, because they always have the ball. But he was still operating just like a normal point guard. He was setting guys up. He was running the offense. He was dictating the pace. It was all just really, it was a really, really impressive showing from him.
I agree. I mean, It's so fascinating with KJ because he's just one of those guys, like Mark Sears is in this category that I feel like we continued to overlook the whole year. And then you look at his numbers, he averaged almost 20 a game with 5.8 rebounds at his size, 4.9 assists, 1.6 steals, shooting splits of 47, 43, 87. Like those are fantastic numbers.
Yeah.
And measured in at 6'125" without shoes. So yeah, he's going to be a little undersized, but he plays like a giant. Like he's just tough. And that's why I'm rooting for this class to have some really good depth pieces that have success at the NBA level, because there's a lot of undersized guards. And if they can find a way to carve out a role at the next level, it could be a little bit of a rebirth of like, hey, I know we've been fascinating with height and measurables for the last couple of years when it comes to point guards, but at the end of the day, if you can play, you can play. And obviously, if you're 5'8", you might struggle. Like shout out, Earl Boykins. But I think KJ has shown from those scrimmages, and this isn't the normal scrimmages because now the competition's been a lot better with the amount of players on the court. Like he showed he was one of the best guys this whole week in the combine. So I think he's going to be a name that teams are going to want to get in for more looks, because in a draft with so much uncertainty, if you're buying KJ as a change of pace guard, why not? Like he just could show that he can kind of play. And as Metcalf said, like it was a talented team, but it wasn't just him force feeding shots. He's just an efficient player that's really smart.
Yeah, and I think everything that he showed in these scrimmages kind of backed up the numbers and the tape that we saw at Colorado all season too, where, yeah, he can run the show, but he can also be that complementary piece that plays off ball. And I think for these really small, the really wasn't necessary there, but the small guards, I think that's a really important ability to play off ball and be a reliable spot up guy. Where do you have to have the ball in your hands, or can you be a little more malleable and slide into basically any rotation and any role that's asked of you? And he did that in these scrimmages. He did that all season. He was in the 91st percentile spotting up, the 85th percentile off handoffs, and the 92nd percentile shooting off the catch. And then is like the high 70s running the pick and roll. So he can play on ball. He can be that primary initiator, but we're consistently seeing NBA teams kind of steer more towards the jumbo creators or guys with plus positional size. So can you come off the bench and be that facilitator, be that outlet as a shooter, someone that can be put in motion, can do different things? And he's shown in multiple settings now over this last year that he can do it at an extraordinarily high level without making mistakes.
Absolutely. All right, you're up next. Who do you got?
Okay. Let's go AJ Johnson.
I mean, only a matter of time.
Okay, so well, I'm gonna eat some crow here, and I was a big loser because the measurements were not what we wanted them to be or what we were informed they were going to be. Unfortunately, it was like what 6'4.5", 6'4 3/4" without
shoes.
So plays 6'6" ish.
I hate without shoes. Can I just vent that? I hate it. Just like, and everyone's like, well, they're moving to do. Just put them in shoes. Like, come on. Give them all the same shoes that they have to wear to measure. I don't care. Like, have a rack of everybody's size and be like, there you go. Just annoying. You play the game in shoes. Go ahead.
So that was a bummer. I think a little more concerning was the 167 pounds. Not great, and even further off of what we were informed. But then we saw him play. For a lot of people, that was the most they've seen him play in the last calendar year. He looked good. The two-man game stuff, the fluidity, the offensive creation, the scoring instincts, and then the defensive flashes. He looked very good.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue he was the biggest winner. I think KJ looked fantastic, but I thought AJ was awesome. And you know what? It wasn't the scoring. It wasn't the playmaking for me. All of that was nice. I thought the biggest thing that impressed me with AJ was he got pressured a lot. Like people were trying to rattle him because of his thin frame, and he just handled it. He took it right on, and he didn't panic. He kept his head up, made some really beautiful passes. It was a big win. It was a big week for him because I think you see why he was such a big prospect, why people were so excited about him going to Texas. And you know, it was an up and down year. He didn't get a lot of minutes, but when you watch the tape, there is legit flashes of whoa. Like if I was a team and I have multiple picks, like, and I'm patient, that would be one of the top guys on my list. If I'm saying, hey, we're swinging upside, we're going to get AJ Johnson in, we're going to develop him, let his body fill out. Maybe just like that guy would be a joy to watch in the G League. Just let him run wild and get some reps and get experience. And then you might just have a beast to unlock.
Yeah, and you know, I think the real upside comes with the defensive end too, because that physicality that you mentioned, it's not a big strength for him right now, just because of how light he is. But that mindset, it's a lot easier to add muscle than change a mindset. And I think he has a frame where he's going to eventually get to the requisite weight that he needs to get to. But we even saw during his limited minutes in the NBL that intentionality of playing good defense, of making the right rotation, of playing with his chest, of being physical. And he does that when he attacks the rim too. Again, he's too light to consistently finish through contact or really make or have that defense or that physicality make its necessary impact on defense. But that mindset being what it is, with that frame, with those ball skills, with the shooting, the scoring versatility, the playmaking, the athleticism, that's where it gets really exciting. Do you think that he has legit point guard potential, or do you see him more as like a combo shooting guard?
I hate this question because I do think he has, his playmaking is really something.
Mm-hmm.
I would want the ball in his hands, not just as a potential scorer. We saw, or we didn't get to see it on the coverage of the combine because apparently we were talking about somebody else, but he had a vicious drive and poster dunk, but he also had some just gorgeous passes like that. Even going back to the NBL tape, you see some passes. I'm like, this is not fluky. This is legit vision, feel, really special stuff. So I could see him as a point. And because of the handles, just what he showed me at the combine of like taking on the physicality and it didn't rattle him. That also goes back to a hat tip to the NBL because he's dealt with physicality. So I could see it. What about you? I mean, you're probably thinking, hey, we're just going to have him as a combo guard with his athleticism, and then we can run sets with him having the ball in his hands because he can distribute. But I think you just got a great asset in your backcourt. I mean, what do you think?
I kind of keep going back and forth. It's really tough because like you see the passing with like the 2-man game stuff and the pick and roll, and I really like that. I thought that was really impressive, and it seems like he's taken a big step in that direction. But it's the vision and the consistency, kind of reading the weak side and making those kickouts to guys who are 2-3 passes away, rather than the immediate next option. And that gets a little trickier. That's a really hard kind of skill to develop, to maintain and fend off the initial pressure while also navigating the pick and roll, and then also reading the weak side guys and knowing exactly where your teammates are. Not the setting to develop that, obviously, and it's just a couple days, but that's where something like go in the G League for a year, be our point guard, bulk up, get stronger, and get these live ball reps and get this immense amount of experience, and now come back the next year. I know fans don't want to hear, oh, cool, we drafted a guy that we're gonna not even really see for a whole year, but sometimes that's the best way to develop a guy, because there's no substitute for live reps and live action. You just can't beat it, unless you're a really, 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 really bad team and you're tanking again, and you just bring them up anyways, and you're like, hey, get these live reps in the NBA, or your team has a ton of injuries like the Grizzlies did and experienced with Gigi Jackson.
His upside's scary. That's why if I was a team and I could go get him, I would jump all over it. If I was a organization that could stretch patience, if I had a contract extension as a GM, if I wasn't worried about my job, if I could just be like, hey, yes, I'm gonna, I got my guy early, I'm gonna go back and let's go get AJ. Let's get him some reps. Let's get him with our player development staff. get him good weight conditioning or weight training program, feed him G League reps, time, and then year 2, let's see what he's got. Because a team, that's where you get intel. And if the intel checks out with him, it's like, hey, AJ's a hard worker. He's going to work his butt off. All right, show me. Prove it for a year, work your ass off, and then let's reap the rewards in year 2, because I do think the upside with him's scary. It could be up there with a lot of these names. Like, he has those tools already developing. So if you add some weight on him, get him a lot of reps, and you can be patient, there's crazy upside for him.
Do you think he played himself into the first round?
It's close.
Would you be surprised on draft night if he goes top 30?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. 20.
Would you be like, whoa, okay?
Hold on, folks. I gotta get the order up. I'm trying to look. 20. Yeah. Toronto at 19.
I think it would take a team trading back up.
It would take a team trading back up that has multiple. It would take a team like, everyone will laugh. Take a team like OKC or someone that just has like, we're not in a rush. Like we have a plan. We got our guy earlier. Let's go get one more, roll of the dice. Maybe we get the higher floor guy early that you love, and you're like, now let's have some real fun. Let's go get AJ. Kind of what Detroit did back in the day with getting Duran and Ivy, although that's worked out great. Shout out Monty Williams. So I think I would not surprise me, because he's also going to be a guy now that teams are really going to want to bring in and see what's up. And if he and he's going to look very good by himself or whoever he plays with. So I think there's intrigue. I think there's buzz.
Agree. And, JB Stats in the chat is mentioning the Jazz, who have multiple picks.
There you go.
I do think it's going to be a team with multiple picks or trades back into the first round. I would be floored if a team walks away with AJ Johnson as their only pick in this draft. Because I don't think he's
him to go to Utah.
That'd be really fun. That would be.
I'd love that. That's a very good late Utah.
It is.
All right.
Especially like at 29. You just get that extra year on the contract.
Talk about someone that is patient with guys to unlock confidence. Danny Ainge would be perfect. So that would not surprise me. That would be a very good Danny Ainge move.
That would be a lot of fun. And then there's so much talent and size and positional length there. It'd be a really good long-term fit. So, okay. Rucker, I want to get your next name right after a quick break. Okay, and we're back. Rucker, who is the next standout for you?
My Serbian knight in shining armor, Nikola Djurisic, baby. Gosh, he had everyone buzzed after one pass, and I was
good.
like,
that playmaking's been there all year too.
It's always been there. He's just, I think. So he's been buzzed lately because all of a sudden, shout out Happy Gilmore. Happy learned how to putt. Well, Nikola learned how to shoot. And now it's like, oh gosh, if he can shoot, this is a legit talent that everyone needs to jump on the train quickly. I've loved him since last year. I just love the way. And there's been guys that know ceilings like, gosh, I love how he plays. Just please, could the shot come around? And he's been scorching to end the year. I looked it up earlier. I think he shot 21% from downtown last year. I think he's around 35 right now, which is a huge number because it's gotten up to 35 because of how crazy on fire he's been. Mm-hmm. But I also think when you watch his game now with Mega, he's kind of transformed. I mean, you have talked about this. He's kind of transformed into that off-ball scoring threat. Yeah. Before it was kind of more of like the playmaking, run the offense through him, but he was playing with Toppin this year and had to play off the ball, and it's sort of unlocked a level with his game now, and now he's kind of more focused that way. But people were going crazy about that pass, and I was like, he is another wizard. Yeah, like Toppin, you go watch some Jurisic film, you will quickly fall in love. So I thought he had a good second game.
I thought the second game when he was on the court, he was looking like the best player out there.
He's I think he measured around 6'8", didn't have a great wingspan. I think it was about the same. But I'm also one of those guys at that point, you're 6'8" with playmaking and potential offensive tools. Like scouts like Djurisic going back to the last year. Like it's been the one guy that pisses me off the most because I love how he plays the game of basketball. And I've been like, why can't Djurisic shoot? It looks good. Why doesn't it go in? It drives me crazy. And now if it's going in, I'm like, oh, like people are throwing him in the first round. I'm like, yeah, I would understand if a team's that high on him because he has the tools. He's tough. He's I can't state this enough. The playmaking is freakish, but now he's kind of transitioned more to being that scorer guy. So Ignacio, I love you. Shout out Ignacio in the comments. Last 10 games for Djurisic, 21 a game on 52-46. It's legit. I'm in a dangerous world because I've turned on some of his late stuff and I'm like, oh gosh, you're gonna somehow get up in my first round. This is the late climber. Where are you at?
Higher than I was, a little lower than you.
I'm not that close yet. I still got where did I put him? Because I'm like, I need to really go back if I'm moving him up
mid to early second round.
Yeah, I've got him. I got him at like 40.
I think like top just inside my top 40, but kind of in that a group of like 15 names where like 25 or later makes sense.
And I've also have that group of like, if I watch your film right now, you're probably going up 10 more spots. So like he's cooking.
And I just completed deep dive of him, so I've seen it all. I really need to preface this with I loved him at the combine. He looked incredible. The leaps of the shot, they look fantastic. I love them all. Now I'm just going to nitpick a little bit. Bear with me.
It's the defense, isn't it?
It's atrocious. It's so bad. He is such a bad defender. Some of the defensive playmaking stuff where he gambles and it actually works out is like, oh, okay, cool. But the other 95% of the time, it's pretty rough. The playmaking I love, the decision making consistency. It's a little like, really, you needed to throw that one. Like, thank God that behind the back pass at the combine worked, and it was right on the money. Because if that went sailing out of bounds, it would have been like, what are you?
Oh, he has those moments, but he also has some throws where you're like, how did you even see that window? Yeah. Like,
I buy the playmaking for what it's worth.
Yeah.
I think he's an awesome passer. It's just, some of the decisions are like, but when you're the guy at Mega, you get a little longer leash with that stuff. And then just the at rim finishing, I don't think he has a whole lot of touch or craft. It's all dunks, but the fact that he's like, 6'8" in shoes, that makes it a little more easy to just dunk on guys all the time. So, I'm really intrigued by him. Are any of those nitpicks incredibly unfair, or am I overthinking it?
No, and I need everyone to understand how much I love him. Like he's given me new life for this draft cycle. I was like, oh my gosh, Djurisic is cooking and everyone's buzzing. This is fantastic. Like I'm all back in. So I did a deep dive film breakdown on our YouTube channel last year. I love his game, but everything Metcalf said, accurate. I will say the biggest thing that surprised me with his recent film is just the mentality shift off the bounce. Because it used to be a lot of heavy, like, I'm trying to get the outside shot to fall. Now it's he'll hit a shot and then he will go at you to get to the basket. And I'm like, okay, I didn't see that mentality shifts last year. So it's very exciting stuff. The warts Metcalf mentioned are very well deserved, but it's also like at some point, I think you're drafting him because of what he can do, which is potentially a floor spacing 6'8" playmaker. That's tough and fit everything. So if you feel like you can kind of hide the defense a little bit, I get it. But I thought he was another big winner. I think he's going to be another one now that because teams want to see if you can. Like last year, I think he played last year and he didn't really pop. And I was like, oh man, looked off.
I think the shot was just brutal. I think the game looked a little fast for him. He looks bigger this year.
He does look bigger. He also looks way more confident. Yeah, just in his ability. So I would be very intrigued about him for the next couple weeks, months.
Agreed. Especially if that shot is legit. I don't think first round is ridiculous. Just looking at kind of like 20 to 30 here. Some of my favorite fits, tell me if you hate them. I think Cleveland is interesting as like kind of a long-term Karis LeVert replacement or just, backup. Phoenix, sort of. Milwaukee, definitely.
Yes.
New York. Washington, maybe, depending on who
Washington.
they go with early. And then honestly, even Minnesota.
I think Minnesota makes a lot of sense with their team.
With that, they desperately need another facilitator, another shot creator, because Anthony Edwards cannot do that for 48 minutes.
He'd be
But
so
yeah,
good
I don't know.
there. He'd be good there. I mean, he makes. You could talk me into Utah too. Like he just makes a lot of sense if you are confident with the roster construction you have around. He makes a lot of sense because he can do some really special stuff offensively. It's just you got to have the pieces around him so that you can have some team success.
Completely
Hit
agree.
me. What do you got?
Okay.
Next one.
Oh boy, I don't where to go. Man, there are a lot of names. Oh, I know who I want to talk about. Biggest surprise for me, Enrique Freeman to
There we
Akron.
go. I was like, come
Let's
on, we can't. Let's go.
go.
Wow.
So just, being fully transparent as I try to always be, had watched barely anything of him before the combine. I love this dude. I'm in.
Love him.
I would draft him.
Oh, easy. Easy. I'm right there with you. One of the guys that slipped through the cracks, and one of the guys that are watching the combine right away. I said, "Who the hell is this?" I've heard plenty of guys around our team have talked about him and 987 other names. So it rang a bell when I was like Akron. I know forward side senior. Then you look at the numbers, you're like, "Oh my gosh!" And then I texted you while I was watching, and I was like, Freeman rocks. And then it was so funny because his first shot, I was like, what the heck? Like, that was so smooth. Who's this kid? And I was like, I turned on his tape and the shot looked completely different. So that made me be like, okay, I might need to watch this again because I'm like, have you worked that much on this shot? Because it looked a little catapult-y at Akron during the turning run, and then all of a sudden it looked very smooth and it was just like nothing but net. So good number, good size, or good numbers. I'm saying production across the board, good size. It just, that one looks like a little like, oh, he should be drafted for sure. And I think he's generated some buzz now as a draftable player. Yeah, I would absolutely be jumping all over that. Just like productive player. I'll get the numbers up. Like, what did you think, Metcalf? What stuck out to you?
Yeah, so I'm just kind of touching on the shot. He took 6 total 3-pointers in his career before this year, and this year it jumped to 54, where he shot 37%. So 20 of 54. Still small sample size, but it's something that he's clearly working on and knows that he has to do. And the fact that he shot 37% is still really encouraging. I think it's workable. I think it's so early in the process of him shooting that a smart shooting coach is going to basically be able to mold it into whatever they want it to. And then, the indicators aren't horrible this year, where he shot 73% from the line. His numbers across the board are freaking absurd. So, he's like what, 6'7", 6'8" at a mid-major. So you're kind of typical undersized center at a mid-major. So a lot of posting up, unfortunately, which was 48% of his possessions, looking at synergy here, but he ranked in the 76th percentile. What fascinates me, though, is the 88th percentile is the roll man, the 77th percentile is on offensive rebounds, the 87th percentile cutting, the 89th percentile transition. And then you look into some of the like rebounding and defensive playmaking rates. Oh boy. Offensive rebounding rate just under 12, defensive rebounding rate just under 33, block rate just under 6, steal rate at like 1.5, free throw rate just under 60. The only other player in the country to hit those marks this year was Zach Edey. Just ludicrous stuff.
That's why I love the mad scientist. He was listed places at 6'7". He measured at 6'7" and a quarter.
Okay.
Without shoes.
So
he
plays
had
6'8", 6'9" in shoes.
A 7'2" wingspan.
That's fun. I like that.
Now the negatives. Super senior. He's going to be 24 in July, but that type of production, the shot's really developing like it looked. Mm-hmm. And you're getting a floor spacing productive beast potentially in the second round, like I would absolutely drop him. This is a guy that also gets drafted in the second round, goes to the G League, and we quickly find out he's too good for the G League. He needs to get up. So I just think there's a really intriguing sleeper developing, super sleeper, if you want to put it that way, developing now. And I think another guy, great week, and he's probably going to be a popular name trying to get in and for some workouts, because this is the year, like we're talking about, there's depth, folks. There's depth. Like buy into the depth. Like, and it's going to be really interesting now with the new format with the draft, was like, hey, we got a day to regroup and then let's see what happens in the second round, because guys are, teams are going to be now looking like, can we find a sleeper in the second round that could, help us with CBA stuff or just, good value.
He feels like Toumani Camara this year.
That's a good one. Everyone wants those.
Toumani Camara got a fuck ton of minutes this year too.
You get extensions when you find guys like Toumani Camara, and I'm just being serious. If you find those with your second round picks, or I know Portland didn't draft him, they got him in as a filler in a trade, but still, those are the type of guys that you look very smart. When you're like, yeah, give us the second rounder you took late. What? Why? We want him.
You bring him over here. You don't want the 22-year-old from Akron.
No, yeah,
he can't shoot. Is a
24-year-old. Yeah,
just we have to make the money match. Just send him over. It's fine. And then you get him. It's like, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I think this is the year to find those guys.
Yeah.
Who else you got? You brought up Enrique.
Give me your next name, but after our final ad break.
All right.
Okay. Who you got?
It's tough. I have a lot of names. I got like 3 names I wanted to talk about. Mogbo.
Let's do it.
Jonathan Mogbo caught my attention pretty damn quick, because I was like, who the hell is that? And then someone posted the numbers for the rosters and they were completely off. So I was like pissed off. I had to find the box scores and track it that way. So I'm watching and I'm like, who the hell is that? And I look at the box or the original roster numbers. I was like, these are all wrong. So I found the box score and then I rewound it, played it again. And it was like a stop, kick ahead, get the ball back, or it was like an assist or he finished. And then I looked down, I was like, that's Mogbo. And I was like, I've watched plenty of film on him, but he just looked like his body filled out a little bit more. I just don't remember his physique being that impressive. So he just made a lot of plays where I was like, this kid's popping a lot. I was very intrigued. Impressed.
And he had a fantastic season. I've seen some people even have him in the first round. I can't get there, but he grew up a guard, primarily a point guard, and then had a huge growth spurt. I think he's bounced around to a whole lot of different programs over the last couple of years, but just really fascinating and incredibly skilled kind of point forward initiator type guy. Shot, big question mark. But the feel, the instincts, the passing, the ball handling, and then the defensive versatility, it's all really, really intriguing, really impressive. Another guy kind of in that early to mid second round, I would be thrilled about getting. I think, one of the things that these playoffs have really showed us is how important having facilitators kind of all over the floor is. Guys who can dribble and pass. If they can shoot too, fantastic. But if they can dribble and pass and take some pressure off of your lead guard who's getting hounded 94 feet. I'm sorry, a little PTSD from this Nuggets series, but you look at, a poor man's Aaron Gordon. It's like, okay, we can do a lot of different stuff with that. That makes life a lot easier because we have multiple decision makers. We have multiple ball handlers. We can do stuff in different ways that most teams can't. And I think Mogbo is one of these guys that can really kind of help elevate an offense in that realm.
Yeah, I completely get it. I'm interested. Do you think he should go back?
I don't
think he should. I think there's enough buzz for a team to be intrigued enough with his skill set. He measured in at 6'6" and a quarter without shoes, which I was like, 7'2" wingspan, which I was like, okay. But he did not play like that on the floor. He played much bigger. he almost played like he looked like Kenneth Faried, but with playmaking ability. And, he had an incredible year at San Francisco. He averaged 14 and 10 with 3.6 assists, 1.6 steals, 63% from the field, 69% from the free throw line, which player of his size is pretty damn good. So I like him. He made some passes this year where you quickly do some digging, and like Metcalf says, you understand now why it's like, oh, grew up a point guard with the growth spurt, which is very fun to have. So I just think he makes a lot of sense as a facilitator asset, like Metcalf's saying. So I was impressed with him. What else you got?
When do you want to do the Bronny? Do you want to do it now? Do you want to go rapid fire on some guys? Do you want to end with
Let's
Bronny?
do rapid fire, and then we could talk about Bronny because it's not going to be pleasant.
Okay. Rapid fire real quick on basically the rest of the guys. Mark Sears dealing with a thigh injury. I really liked the one game that he played. I thought the offensive creation and shooting and scoring looked like it did at Alabama. And then I thought point of attack defense was really sound and kind of gave Jamal Shead some fits. Jamal Shead, also another guy, really fantastic. Scrimmages, the defense, the passing, the rebounding, all of it was fantastic. Shot was a little inconsistent, but he made some big ones. So I thought those are two of the point guards that really stood out.
I thought Shead looked good. Scheierman looked good, but I don't know. I get his idea. I get why teams are intrigued. Gavoni was throwing out that there's even first round buzz, which I was like, man, he's got the J.R. Smith green light, and I get it, but it's just one of those where he took a couple shots where I was like, my man, like calm down a little bit.
But that's also who he's kind of
that
always
is
been.
Also who he is. Yeah, it's always been him. And if he's red hot, you're like, gosh, Scheierman rocks.
He'll take over a game in a blink of an eye with his playmaking, his shooting. He also had some of the worst air balls of the entire
There was
scrimmage.
some terrible shots, folks. There was some terrible shots.
The highs with him are fantastic, and it's like, oh my God, like, why is this dude not a first rounder? And then you see some of the lows, and there's just not a whole lot of consistency with the in-between stuff. So I get it. If a team's like, love it, we'll bring him in, seventh man, spark plug off the bench. And, if it's not his night, we get that sense real quick. Yank him, no harm, no foul. Okay. I can kind of get behind that. But a lot of there are also stretches where I'm like, is that Matthew Meyer again? So
what a name drop. I understand, because I think the idea, if he could be a Sam Hauser, and I don't mean that as an insult. I'm saying like Sam Hauser has moments for the Celtics where he's hot and you're like, keep him on the court.
Scheierman can rein in the decision making.
What?
If you can kind of rein in the decision making and just simplify his game. Yeah, right. For sure.
So I completely get that. That Trent Flowers looked good.
Very good first game.
You know who I was very proud of and I thought looked good and shocked me actually in a completely different way I was expecting was Ajay Mitchell.
Yes.
I thought he looked really, really damn good. I thought he's going to be the name buzzing. I think teams are like, we need to get Ajay Mitchell in because it's rare. As Metcalf pointed out before, I think there's two ways guards can dominate this is either as a playmaker or you just have the ball so you can light it up. And I think he took in one of those games, he said, I'm going to take this game over with my playmaking. He had like a 7 assists. But the defensive flashes really kind of stood out to me. He just was physical. He's around 6'4". I loved him at Santa Barbara this year. It's just one of those guys I can't stop loving. And he was banged up for a little bit. I think he was playing sick. He would not shock me if he goes in the first round. He would not shock me because he can light it up, but he also has great feel. He knows how to play with change of gears. And I just was wowed by the defense because there's a clear mentality that week of like, I'm sending a message and, Bobby Marks would not stop talking about him. So I was like, okay, Bobby, we get it. You probably talk to people, but there's just a lot of praise from him, and I think it was well-deserved. So I think AJ was one of the guys that really popped to me, and I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I totally agree. He didn't I still have a ton of questions with the
Yeah.
shot. But that was maybe the best defense I've ever seen him play. Uh, just incredibly physical, incredibly strong, and then the interior scoring kind of showcased that physicality and strength as well. I thought he had a fantastic combine, especially I think it was the second scrimmage he was in where he just really took over. It's like,
Yeah.
holy cow. Just touching on Trent Flowers real quick. He's got a lot of fans. And when you see him play out there, when he actually gets extended run, you start to see why. Where there's intentionality, there's effort on the defensive end, there's size, there's physicality. He looked huge out there. And then there's some really, really fascinating off-ball scoring stuff. I don't think he's going to be the point guard like people tried pitching him as last summer, but that's fine because I think the off-ball scoring stuff is very, very legit. And then as that kind of ball handling, playmaking, decision making continues to develop, that's when he kind of elevates into more of a second side creator and secondary facilitator rather than just an off-ball scorer. So early on, uber athletic, high energy off-ball scorer with some defensive stuff with a ton of potential to grow into even more. So I thought, along with Ajay Johnson, I thought he probably worked his way into top 40, top 30 consideration.
Oh, for sure. I'm absolutely for sure. Another guy that's going to be a wild card. I think he had a good week. Good testing numbers too. I think there's going to be some intriguing guys. Shout out Mike T. Yes, this is live, so I appreciate you joining us. Is it time? Or do you got any other quick hitters, or is it time?
Adem Bona.
Bona, gosh,
looked fantastic. It's amazing what happens when you don't run an offense through a guy who shouldn't have the offense run through him.
When you don't have to play at UCLA. Yeah, he looked fantastic. There's good buzz. I just think everyone's gonna buy. Like, this is why I've been buying in on Bona. I think he's gonna get to the NBA and be like, all I have to do is play defense. Fantastic. I'd love him to not foul so much, but if he just plays good defense and is a lob threat, you're gonna make a lot of money at the next level. And I feel like we heard that the buzz is good. I feel like
all the intel was really
fantastic.
Good.
I think he interviewed really well. I think people are just like, this kid just ball of energy. Like, so it's like, I could see that with how he plays. I go back to seeing him in person last year in warmups. He was trying to destroy the hoop. And I was just like, my man, the game hasn't started yet. He was dunking like Shaq trying to bring down the backboard. So just a high motor piece I would want in my rotation. And you never know, you could unlock someone that's like, there's our starting center, because he's just an anchor defensively. I'm still a fan of Bona. Offensively, there's questions, yes, but he's not going to be force-fed touches. He's just going to be rebound, block shots, play defense, high motor. I just like him coming off the bench early on.
There was like one pass that he made to a corner shooter out of the short roll where I was like, "Ooh, that was fun!" And it's like,
yourself being a fan, you're like, "Okay, hold on." Just a chest pass.
Just give him the ball. I'm kidding. But no, it's like, cool. Play your role. Play to your strengths. Do what you do well, and you'll shine. And that's exactly what he did. JT Toppin, I thought, looked really good, but he needs another year. The shot looks like a mess, but the rebounding, defense, energy, all that kind of stuff.
He finds the ball.
Yeah.
It's a rare thing. He finds the ball. The ball finds him. I should put that way. So I like him. I think another year would do wonders for him.
He could be a huge, huge sophomore season.
Yes.
Anyone else? Or real quick on Nick Clifford. Sorry. He didn't necessarily shoot it all that well. He had a big third quarter in their second scrimmage, but I thought the defense was generally really good. And I thought his passing was fantastic. The way that he was cutting, moving off ball, finding those open pockets. And then once the defense rotated to him, making that skip pass out to open shooters and cutters and being just a really high level facilitator. I think he showed a lot more than just being a 3-and-D guy that you put in the corner. Obviously not put the ball in his hands, let him create, but put him in movement, allow him to attack closeouts, that kind of stuff, and then counter the defense's rotation and their momentum. So would have been great if he shot better, but I thought kind of a lot of the secondary skills that he showed were really impressive.
Yeah, I still love Nick. I think he could, he probably needed to shoot it real well to start getting like legit first round buzz, but I still think there's going to be teams at some point that are intrigued. I wanted to point out, I thought Ulrich Chomche looked exactly like the guy we saw in Portland.
He needs time.
Needs time.
Once he started shooting, it was surprising. But there were a couple flashes of, kind of high energy stuff, but the game looks really fast for him, and he just needs another year to kind of mentally slow the game down and kind of elevate some of those just simple skills of making that pass out of the short roll, improve that defensive consistency, all that kind of stuff. Great foundation to build on. Lot to be excited about long term. Just needs another year. And then finally, I like Keshad Johnson. I thought he had a really good game. Played simple. The defensive stuff was outstanding, and then he knocked down the open shots that he had. So that's exactly who he's going to be. So I thought he played to his strengths really well.
That's my guy.
Okay. Is it time? Do we have to do it? Let's do it. Okay.
You start it off.
Okay. Finally, Bronny James.
This isn't going to be the Bronny James hour that people are thinking. This isn't ESPN, folks.
Okay. So I want to start talking exclusively about the coverage and the media outlets. This has nothing to do with the kid or the player. Yeah, we'll get into all of that stuff in a minute. But I thought how a lot of different media outlets handled this kid's week was honestly disgusting. It was gross. It set him up for failure. It set him up to be hated by basically everyone, where they're panning to full screens of him warming up while the other game's going on. And it's unfair to him. They're putting a spotlight on him and talking about him every single second of every single minute they're on air. And he's just not that player yet. Do I think that he has the tools to grow into a solid rotation guard? Yeah, eventually. I think there's something there, but he's not ready yet. And I think he showed that again in these games. The coverage constantly going to him and talking about G League attendance and merchandise. What the fuck are we doing? Are you kidding me? It's gross. I know why they're doing it. I know they're doing it for clicks. I know they're doing it for engagement. I know they're doing it because his dad is arguably the best or second best player of all time. He's incredible. I get it. I get why they're doing it for engagement. It's unfair to him. It was gross. It was disgusting. I hated every single second of it, and it has nothing to do with the kid himself. I just can't make that clear enough. It was the media apparatus that they're shoving down our throats and forcing upon this kid. Well said.
If you were taking a shot every time they talked about Bronny, you would have been passed out before the halftime of the first scrimmage. It's unfair. I understand, and this has nothing to do with Bronny because we saw him in Portland drink, unrelated, no pun intended.
I really liked him at Portland.
And
I thought he looked really good. Looked strong, explosive.
Yes. I went into Portland the biggest critic because I said, I'm not going to listen to everybody's reviews about Bronny. I'm going to make my own evaluation. And I left there saying there's a basketball player at the NBA level right there. There is talent. I was not putting him in my top 10, but I was saying there is a player there that could play at the NBA level and carve out a role for a long time because of his defense. I thought there was some fundamentals defensively that were ahead of where guys are at that age because it was just like angles, how he read screens, how he positioned himself. And I was like, yeah, he probably had a good teacher. LeBron's an unbelievable, one of the greatest basketball players to ever play. We do not need to be forcing feed and coverage down each other's throats because this is his kid. I want to watch the damn games. That's what every fan wants to watch, is watch the scrimmages. Don't show me 900 things of Bronny warming up and doing stuff. The Woj clip, I love Woj. The Woj thing, I thought it was a fake clip. I thought someone put it up on AI. The one about, teams might draft him in the first round because of their G League attendance it could boost. I was like, what the hell are we talking about? It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. And it just was such a bad taste in the mouth for fans, for everyone, that every time we're trying to watch this as draft fans, as basketball fans, you got to bring Bronny back into the conversation. It's like, it's what Metcalf said. It was setting everybody up to be watching him and be like not rooting for him at a point. And by the time all this was ending, I'm like, please play good in the game because I just want you to have success with all this stuff. And shout out to Bronny. I saw the interviews he did. I thought he handled himself incredibly well.
Absolutely.
He's like, I want to make my own name. I'm not trying to play with my dad. I think that's all, he very mature, very well done. And I thought he gave some pro comps and I was like, that's a kid that understands his role at the next level. I think he said like Derek White, said 2 other guys.
I heard of Davion Mitchell.
Yeah. I was like,
and it's like, yes, thank you.
Smart.
Perfect. So sorry, go finish.
No, it's just, and I don't want to sound like we're not doing this just for fucking clicks. Like we don't do that. That's not what No Ceilings does. We talk about everyone. And I've never, ever wanted any of us to be like, hey, Bronny's popping. Let's talk about Bronny. But what they did for basketball fans with this event and just shoving it in our face was not fair to Bronny. It was not fair to fans. So I'm still rooting for him, but it's just unfair that we're hyping him up as this potential top 14 pick when he had a tough year. This is a kid coming off of a serious medical condition. Everyone's rooting for him. But you shoving it in our face is making him an enemy in so many points. And it's not fair to the kid. So I'm still rooting for Bronny. I think he had a very good second game. And I think it was a big week for him. But just calm down. Like, my goodness. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So let's talk about the player because we haven't talked about him really all year. And there's a reason for that because he had an awful year. He wasn't good enough to be legitimately considered a draft prospect. And whatever, that's fine. He's there because of his name. I get it. Whatever. There's actual stuff to build around based on what we saw in Portland, based on what we saw at the combine, long term. You mentioned it. He nearly died. He had a heart attack while playing or while practicing. It's horrific. I can't even imagine experiencing that, then coming back, playing, and now trying to go pro. Thank God he's okay and that he's been cleared and he's back. I can't even imagine how much that disrupted his season. But from what we've seen from him as a basketball player, I don't think he's draftable. I think he should go back to school. I think he needs another year. In the first game, he looked really bad. The shot wasn't falling. The game looked really fast, way too fast for him. The decision-making was erratic. The defensive discipline was kind of all over the place, reaching, fouling, jumping too much on fakes, and a lot of turnovers. And then the second game, he had a huge bounce back, and that was really, really encouraging to see. And that's the kind of sprinklings of the player that you hope to get from him long term, because the defense was a little better, still a handful of fouls, reaching in, jumping on fakes, that kind of stuff. But the footwork, the instincts, it looked like he calmed down. It looked like he took a deep breath and was like, let's just go play basketball. And he knocked down some shots. The passing was a little better, a little inconsistent, but I'm not sure what he's providing to a team in a basketball context in his first 2 to 3 years. I don't think he's ready because I don't think those point guard skills are there. He measured in at just a little over 6'1", I believe, without shoes. Very small. And that kind of surprised me. I thought he would have been a little bigger, but you have to be an awesome shooter. You have to be an awesome passer. And I think there's long-term stuff for him there, but he's just not ready. He's not ready.
He's not. I don't care if people get pissed at me. He's not ready. I don't think he's draftable right now. Do I think he will get drafted? Probably.
Yeah.
Because some team will be willing to wait at some point in the second round. But like we're talking his size. Let me rattle off some guards. We just talked about KJ Simpson. KJ's better than him. Jamal Shead. Jamal's better than him. Mark Sears. Mark Sears is better than him. And then you start getting down to other guards like Juan Nunez. Absolutely. I would take Juan right now. Like, will we draft Tristan Newton over Bronny right now? But like that's a conversation, and that's a super senior that was incredibly productive for national champions. There's a lot of names in this class, and this is not a slander to Bronny, but like he has an avalanche to climb right now.
Yeah,
it is so hard what he's going to have to go through because he's not ready. He just came off of serious medical condition. Basically, you could throw out last year. So he's a year behind in terms of development and playing time because USC was just a dumpster fire. So
Correct.
we're asking him to say, hey, you're not ready. You're coming off a serious thing. Your confidence is probably all over the place. Yes, I understand his dad's probably doing a good job with him. But I'm just saying he needs to get drafted and just be like, redshirt year. You're going to the G League. We're going to play you as much as we can. And you know what? You might need a second year in the G League. He just needs time and reps. So it's not me trying to be like, hey, Bronny's no good. There's talent.
Yeah.
But he's a defensive talent right now with an outside shot that's not consistent and playmaking that's erratic. And he's undersized. Like, come on, guys. Like, I understand it's his kid, but like I'm looking at the prospect. And if it was anyone's kid, like if his last name wasn't James, I'd be like, I'm not drafting him.
Yeah.
But because it's Bronny, and because he was a known name coming into the year and had these expectations, we're all saying, oh, he should be drafted. It's tough to put this on that kid. So I think he's going to get drafted. But he's just far. He's far away. And there is talent. There is potential to unlock, but it's going to require time and patience and a well-orchestrated plan with an organization. And an organization that says, you know what, we're fine if you take a couple of years to find your footing, because we know he's going to be working his butt off. He's going to be motivated because of kind of the challenges he's had to get here. But
so just like the tricky thing for me with that is I totally agree with what you said. I think he's going to be he has a very, very, very good shot to be a legit rotation guy in 2 years, 3 years.
It'll happen before because someone will give him a shot.
That's a lot of time to wait and invest in a guy. If he goes second
rounder,
what NBA teams invest that kind of time and patience and resources into actually legitimately developing a guy that needs that much time? We don't see it. Those guys go top 20. Those guys, like, I would rather spend that time and resources on AJ Johnson and Trentyn Flowers and Garway Dual and Bub Carrington. It's just, he's being set up to fail right now. And it sucks because there is a very legitimate NBA rotation guard, defensive first, knockdown, spot up shots, long term.
But I'm rooting for him. I don't want this to sound like we're not rooting for him. We root for every damn prospect. And I'm rooting for Bronny, but it's just the expectations are unrealistic right now of what we're asking him to overcome with such drastic challenges in the past. Like we're asking too much of him right now. Like, and I think you put that perfectly. Like, what team is going to take this kid in the middle of the late second and be like, you know what, we'll wait 3 years. We'll be as patient as possible.
By the time his contract's up.
It's just, and everyone's going to point and be the Lakers and be like, fine. Okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
Like, let's see how you hold it after year 2. Like it's just tough. So I'm rooting for him. I still think someone's going to draft him. Wouldn't shock me either way.
Yeah. And everything we saw up close suggests that he has the work rate, the mentality, the confidence, all of that to make it. If someone is going to do it, I think he has a good shot of doing it. It's just tough. It's just really, really tough. And I don't think this week did him any favors, even though he had a really solid second game.
Yeah. And the problem is you also get the reports that guys are talking to GMs, and GM's like, I'd love him to go back.
Yeah.
It's like, that speaks loud. Like, I'm rooting for him. I really am. I don't want everyone listening to think this is the Bronny hate hour, because that's not true at all. It's the coverage hate hour.
Agreed.
Like, we need to cover the damn combine.
Agreed. Okay, let's wrap up with the green room. It is the most exclusive club in the basketball world. Only 14 prospects get in. It is based on vibes, potential, ability, production. A lot of vibes. It is not our top 14. This is not our lottery rankings. It is just who gets in the club. We're at 13 names.
Yeah.
We're
Okay,
at
let's add
13.
Bronny.
This has been tough. Currently in there, we have Jacoby Walter, Alex Sarr, Ron Holland, Stephen Castle, Zachary Reese-Shea, Nikola Topic, Cody Williams, Reed Shepard, Rob Dillingham, Dalton Knecht, Donovan Klingen, Tristan De Silva, Jared McCain. Any of those need to get booted.
We're at 13, correct?
Correct. Any of those need to get booted.
What do you think?
I was leaning towards Jacoby, but I really liked his measurements. And
yeah, they kind of shocked me. Is he worthy of staying in, or does he need to go back into line? We can't get full, right? Or we could get full and then
we can get up to 14, and then maybe someone leaves, maybe they don't.
All right, who's in line?
Johnny Furphy, Bub Carrington, Tyler Kolek, Jalen Tyson, Dylan Jones, Devin Carter, AJ Johnson, Modest Buzelis.
Gosh, what type of week was I having to nominate Buzelis? I'm kidding, guys. Calm down. I would say if anyone in line is getting in, I would think maybe Devin Carter.
Ooh. Let's talk about Carter. Yeah.
Let's talk about Devin. Have a week, Mr. Carter. Hey, Mr. Carter. What do you have? 42? 40?
I thought it was like 41 and a half or
41
42.
and a half at 6'2" and a quarter without shoes and a freakish 6'8" and 3/4 wingspan. Shout out the guy that put his numbers in for Castle and gave the internet a heart attack.
That was incredible.
I got so angry. I texted someone. I tweeted about it. I was like, "Fuck this!"
There's
I texted
no
someone.
way Castle is 6'2".
I was like, "Castle's not 6'2", right?" And I was like, I stood him last night at the lottery. He's over 6'5". And the guy I texted, I know, was like 6'4". So I was like, okay, that checks out. But that was funny as hell. What about Carter?
He's in.
All right, he's in.
I love the vibes. They're immaculate. It's tough to have a better year than he had this year. I still have questions about the shot and what he does offensively, but the defense is very legit. If he's kind of allowed to play more of a shooting guard role and the shot is only more in the spot up realm, I love it. I think
he's going to play for a long time. He's a pit bull. I love him.
And just the testing this week with the explosiveness, the speed, the length, it was everything you wanted it to be, because it aligns with the tape too, which is the big part, because
that's where it got me.
This is all
that matches.
very real.
Yep. Anyone need to get kicked? What are you thinking? Talk to me honestly. Who is anyone sitting? Jacoby's tough because we've really been holding on all year. Clinging on. Is there anyone in line you'd swap him for?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I
think we're fine.
I'm a little tempted by AJ, but no. I don't think AJ's week was that good enough.
Did you see McCain's interview at the combine when we weren't getting Bronny shoved in our throats?
Relax, move on. Segment's over.
I'm just telling you
a little bit, but I kind of fast forwarded through most of it because it was just the desk for most of it.
It's the intel that we've heard. He just lit up the room. I was like, "Ooh, he's gonna get in some rooms with teams, and just teams are like, whoa!" Like he was just very confident, well spoken, high energy. Like just spoke very well about how to impact the game without the ball in his hands. And I was like, make winning plays. I was like, yep, good kid gets it. I was watching that because you're just trying to see how the mindset, and watching that, I was like, he's going to know the right things to say. I think even Bobby Marks was like, he doesn't need much work.
Yeah. So I've heard, just real quick on McCain, I've heard some outlets talk about him as like late first, I think he's probably like a fringe first round guy, and that makes no sense to me at all. Like I don't see how he falls out of the lottery, let alone the top 10. Am I missing anything there or no?
No, I think everyone's the buzz is everyone's like, tweener, really can shoot it. I'm like, yeah. Everyone's like he's tweener, he's undersized, but he really can shoot and rebound. And he's going to be a high intel probably guy that just, a lot of good buzz. So I'm just a big McCain believer. It wouldn't shock me if he doesn't go as high as we think, but I still think he's top 17, top probably lottery. I mean, what the fuck are we talking about? He should be a lottery pick in this draft, but never know. But I think he's got good stuff going for him as NBA skill. He knows how to play. He's a winning player, shooter, and rebounds. He's tough. So
yeah,
probably a redraft guy too, depending on where he goes.
Well, green room is officially full. Not finalized till draft night or draft week or whenever our last show is, but we finally made it to 14.
Already ready to move someone so we can keep it going.
Incredible stuff. All right, Rucker, this was a blast as always. He is Tyler Rucker. You can find him on Twitter at Tyler_Rucker. I'm Tyler Metcalf. You can follow me at Team Metcalf11. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and a 5-star rating. Till next time, see ya.